Hello, welcome to the next in the series of review clips for Biology 3201. In this clip, we'll be examining the product rule as another means to solve genetics problems. Simply put, the product rule is a rule that uses the principles of probability to determine the possible outcomes of a genetic cross, or the probability or chance that two or more independent events will occur together is the product of their individual probabilities of occurring alone. For example, if you were to toss a coin, you would have a 1/2 chance of getting heads. You also have a 1/2 chance of getting tails. What are the chances of getting 3 heads in a row? To solve this, it would be 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2, which would equal 1/8. You could use this same analogy for children. Every time a couple conceives a child, there's a 1/2 chance of getting a boy or a 1/2 chance of getting a girl. The second birth has no bearing on the first. They are not related at all. They are separate, unrelated events. So if you were asking the question, what were the chances of a couple having 3 girls in a row, it would be 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2, or 1/8. In past public examinations, they have asked that if a couple have had 3 girls, what is the chance of their next child being a boy? The answer is because one event has no bearing on the one before it or after it. The answer would be 1/2. Or put another way, looking at genetics problems specifically, tossing coins, I've mentioned that. Your chance of getting a head is 1/2, a tail is 1/2. 2 heads in a row, 1/2 times 1/2, or 1/4. 2 tails, 1/2 times 1/2 equals 1/4. Heads and tails, 1/2 times 1/2 plus 1/2 times 1/2, that equals 50%. You can apply this to genetics problems as well. If you're dealing with a monohybrid cross, you can use the product rule to predict your outcomes. For example, if you were told the parents were as follows: big T, and big T, little t, you know the gametes they would produce are from parent 1, big T and big T. From parent 2, big T, little t. We know that the gametes being produced are from parent 1, 1/2 big T plus 1/2 big T. For parent 2, 1/2 big T plus 1/2 little t. By multiplying things through, we can predict the genetic outcomes. We can use the FOIL rule: first, outside, inside, last. Or 1/2 big T plus 1/2 big T multiplied by 1/2 big T plus 1/2 little t. We can combine these to be 1/1 big T. Multiplying that by 1/2 big T plus 1/2 little t equals 1/2 big T plus 1/2 big T little t. This is an alternative method to using the Punnett square. Either method used on your public examination for genetics problems will be absolutely fine. Let's take a look at this sample problem. You were told that both a man and his wife are heterozygous for freckles. You were told that freckles are dominant to no freckles. What is the chance, probability, that their first child will have no freckles? The first step, as with all genetics problems, are to write the gamete genotypes of the parents. In this case, you are told they are both heterozygous, so using F for freckles, as this is dominant, you have big F, little f for the man, big F, little f for the woman, his wife. The gametes produced from the parents are, I'll just write this note here for you to help, gametes 1/2 big F plus 1/2 little f for the man. For his wife, she as well, as she shares the same genotype, 1/2 big F plus 1/2 little f. We then will multiply these two terms together. So we have 1/2 big F plus 1/2 little f multiplied by 1/2 big F plus 1/2 little f. Using the FOIL method, first outside, inside, last. This gives us 1/4 big F plus 1/4 big F little f. The second set, involving the second allele here, plus 1/4 big F little f plus 1/4 little f little f. Adding the terms together gives me 1/4 big F, which of course would have freckles, plus 1/2 big F, little f, which as well would have freckles, plus 1/4 little f, little f. The question asks you which or what is the probability that the child will have no freckles. The answer to that would be 1/4 little f, or stated another way, there is a 25% chance that there is no freckles. Another sample problem reads as follows. In tomatoes, red fruit is dominant over yellow fruit, and tall vines are dominant over short vines. This is a dihybrid cross, and in fact for dihybrid crosses you may find the probability method a little quicker to work through. You are asked for the expected genotypic and phenotypic ratios of a cross between a plant which is heterozygous for both traits. So let's call this one parent 1. Heterozygous for both. So big R, little r. We'll use capital R to represent red, as red is dominant. Little r to represent yellow, as yellow is recessive. Big T, little t. Parent 2, you are told homozygous red color, so that would be big R, and short vines. As short is recessive, little t, little t. Those are your parents. The next step are what are the possible gametes. For parent 1, big R, big T, 1/4 plus 1/4 little r, little t, plus 1/4 big R, little t, plus 1/4 little r, big T. That's for parent 1. For parent 2, let's draw a line to separate. You have 1/1 big R, little t. All the gametes are going to be the same. They're all going to result in big R's and little t's, as this individual is homozygous. Homozygous dominant in the case of plant color, homozygous recessive in the case of vine length. We can then use the probability method to very quickly multiply this through. So going to solve this, we know that from parent 1, the combination were 1/4 big R, big T, plus 1/4 big R, little t, plus 1/4 little r, big T, plus 1/4 little r, little t. For parent 2, it was 1/1 big R, little t. Multiplying the terms through, multiplying by each other, we get or 1/1 rather. 1/4 big R, big T, little t, plus 1/4 big R, little t, plus 1/4 big R, big T, little t, plus 1/4 big R, little t, little t. This is the genotypic ratio. You're also asked for the phenotypic ratio. This individual, this set of individuals rather, big R, big T, little t, is going to be red and tall. This set here is going to be red and short. This set is going to be red and tall. And this last set of offspring are going to be red and short. Combining them together, 1/4 red tall, 1/4 red tall, or in other words, 1/2 are red and tall, red short, 1/2 are red and short. This question here poses another problem, a dihybrid cross, which you can solve by using this method. You are told the ability to roll tongue is dominant to non-rolling. A mother who is heterozygous for tongue rolling, again, so the mother, heterozygous, so she would be big R, little r. The father does not have the ability to roll the tongue. The father is going to be little r, little r. Using the probability method, we know for the gametes, mom is 1/2 big R plus 1/2 little r. Dad is 1/1 little r. When we multiply the terms together, the offspring are 1/2 big R little r plus 1/2 little r, little r. The probability that child will have the ability to tongue roll is 1/2 or 50%. Thank you for your attention. I hope you found this learning clip helpful.